100K used to mean the world to me. It was a flex, a status symbol, a justification that I'm not a failure after all. It wasn't until my mental health hit rock bottom when I realized that 100K means nothing if you don't have the health to enjoy it. Growing up in a pre-traditional Chinese family as a first-gen immigrant, I never thought I'd give up on the ultimate dream, a six-figure professional job. In this video, I will talk about how I landed a six-figure job / career, why I quit that six-figure career, and what I learned about money to lead me to making that decision. So let's backtrack a little bit. First of all, how did I get to that six-figure job? So I went to USC School of Accounting, as you can see over here, and I went straight into Big Four accounting as my first ever job as a Big Four auditor. And from there, I was miserable, working very long hours. If you worked in Big Four, you might be able to relate to this. And I remember just, brainwashing myself into thinking that this is my dream job, but deep inside, I was just not happy. And luckily, I was able to get this magical DM on LinkedIn asking me to interview at this tech company. And at the time, because I was so miserable, of course I said yes. So I used some of my PTOs to take this interview, and luckily I got the job. And that is how I landed my first close to six-figure job. So I worked there for a while. It was, of course, in a tech space. So the pay is great, the benefits are great, and they also have stock options. So my total comp, including, my base salary plus my stocks, that is around 100K. It is also worth noting that the stock actually 10x'd when I was there. So let's say if it started at $5, then when I left, it was at like $50. So now let's talk about why I quit, because it seems like such a smooth journey. I went from being a burnt out Big Four auditor to landing this nice job in tech, earning six figures, having all these nice benefits like unlimited snacks. Yes, I like to talk about that a lot. So the main reason why I quit is really because of series of events, and I did not really have the balls to quit, to be honest. Like, I thought that, having this nice six-figure professional job is part of my identity that I cannot remove for the rest of my life, because I really enjoyed being seen as this, woman in tech, this badass making six figures. And I really enjoyed all these external, flattery. However, it was over the pandemic when I was diagnosed with severe depression and anxiety and also ADHD. I had to take time off of work. I had to take medical leave and short-term disability leave. And I was also really, really worried about my parents. They are in China still, and from the start, in the beginning of the pandemic, it was just madness. Now it's still quite madness, but back then it was even scarier because I just did not know what would happen. And so, that coupled with my depression and anxiety and all those stresses, I could not go back to work. I was just not in a working condition. So I had to go through the pandemic pretty much in isolation, feeling just super, super alone and feeling like no one understands my position. No one understands, what it's like to have a family who's in China. And I went through a couple months of deep depression. I forced myself to get back to work despite what my doctor said about my conditions, just to find out that I actually got fired. So that was around 2 weeks after I went back to work from my medical leave. I got fired. And I just remember that feeling of betrayal, feeling like I cannot trust anyone in this world anymore, and I cannot trust the system. I was just in disbelief, basically. I already had a gut feeling that they might fire me because in my head, I just kept telling myself that if I'm not producing value for the company, then why would they want to keep me on as an employee? And my skepticism turned out to be correct. They actually did fire me. And I just remember at that time, I gave myself two choices, right? Choice number one is, do you want to get another job? Choice number two is, do you want to just take this opportunity to retire altogether? And I took choice number two because I just cannot bear the feeling of, pretending that I still have hope for the system, I still have hope for the job market, and I still want to devote myself to another job and also, be a positive person to be around, because honestly, at the time, I was not a positive person to be around. I was just so bitter, and I just did not trust anyone, and I just thought everyone is here to screw me over. And so I just, after thinking about all these different factors, I decided to just retire altogether. So take this opportunity of being fired to pursue fire. And now let's talk about what I learned about money, because that's what this video is all about, right? So what I learned about money is that as long as you're trading time for money, it almost doesn't matter how much money you're making, because that is so far away from financial freedom. Sure, I was making, a nice 6-figure salary, and I, sit in this nice AC office with unlimited food and snacks and beverages, but in the end, they can just fire me just like that in a snap second. And so I decided that it's more important for me to focus on not trading time for money, because trading time for money is really dependent on my own well-being. And at the time, I just, my well-being was wobbly. I was not that well. And number two, what I learned about money is that as an employee, you are highly replaceable. This is how the system is structured, and this is how capitalism can work. If you are irreplaceable, if you are the only one who can do this job and they can't train anyone else, then this company didn't do a very good job structuring the company, because the structure, the system means that you as an employee is replaceable, and they have to be able to let you go when it makes business sense. Number three is that solely depending on one income stream is just foolish. I'm lucky that I actually have this, I think at the time it was like 7-year-old business that was also supporting my lifestyle, not just my job. So I was lucky in the sense that I had these, income streams, and I had investments that can be my plan Bs when bad things happen. But for a lot of people, they didn't have this like foresight. And even for me, it's not that I had this foresight, it's more like I was already really miserable at my Big Four accounting job. So I decided to create multiple income streams just in case. And this just in case basically saved my life. So my opinion is that depending on just your 9-to-5 income solely can easily lead to burnout, because there are just too many things at stake. There's too many things that are dependent on this one income stream. Instead of putting all your weight onto this one income stream and all your, hopes and desire onto this one job, try to put your eggs in different baskets and have different diversified income streams that have nothing to do with each other. So for example, if your job is, let's say, in software engineering, and your income streams, your side income streams, probably don't wanna all have to do with software engineering. You don't want them all to be in the same basket, because if one day, let's say, something happens, God forbid, right? If something happens and you cannot depend on your software engineering skill anymore, then at least you have some backup plans. And next is don't sacrifice family for work. I made the mistake of sacrificing time with family when my grandpa passed away for work. So I basically said no to my family. I said, no, I'm not going back to Shanghai. I'm staying here, I'm working. And till this day, it is a regret, because I realized that my company does not treat me as family, even though I treat them as family. And so why did I sacrifice my own family time for, this company who doesn't really consider me as, a family member? And so till this day, sometimes I look back and I still feel really bad that I made that decision, but that has passed already. Time that's gone, that's already passed. Money is replenishable, time is not. Money you can still make as long as you're alive, but time, once it passes, it never comes back. When your family members leave you, when your family members leave this earth, there's no way for you to get them back. There's no way for you to spend time with them again. And there's no way for you to use that regret to change anything. You have to live with that regret forever. So definitely prioritize your family over work. I know sometimes, especially if you're new to, working, new to your career or your job, it's very easy for you to get sucked in and think of your job as the most important thing of all. But trust me, it's not. There are so many more important and beautiful moments that have nothing to do with your job or your career. And next is don't be afraid to take sick leave at work. I think part of the reason why my conditions got so bad is because I kept delaying it. I already felt some symptoms of severe depression, I think a couple weeks or even months before that, but I just kept, pushing it down, telling myself that I'm okay. I just kept bottling up all my feelings, all my emotions. And that's why when it was diagnosed, it was already severe. Every single sickness starts from a small symptom, and if you're sensitive enough to notice, and if you actually go to the doctor quick enough, then it's a small problem. Versus if you try to delay it for such a long time, it can turn into a huge problem, which is why I had to take time off of work for so many months, because that small problem turned into a big problem. So definitely don't be afraid to take sick leave at work. And I believe there are some laws that will protect you from getting fired in the middle of your sick leave. And looking back, I should have just, continued taking my sick leave instead of going back to work, because once I go back to work, I'm no longer protected by those, laws and regulations that protect me, and then they can just fire me. So looking back, that would have been a better decision, but who knew? And the most important thing is to keep in mind that your health is the backbone of everything. This includes mental health and physical health. No matter how much money you make or you have, once you lose health, you don't get to enjoy any of your money. So it's so important to keep in mind that you never really want to sacrifice your health for money. In the past, I've made this mistake a lot because I sacrificed a ton of sleep, and I also sacrificed a ton of self-care time for money-making sake, because it was really important for me to make money. It was really important for me to buy my first house. But then looking back, I'm like, those are probably causes of why my mental health broke down and why I had severe depression, severe anxiety, and diagnosed in, such a short period of time, and why I had to take medical leave for such a long time. Until this day, I'm still not fully recovered. So definitely keep in mind that your health is most important, it's the backbone of everything. And even if you really care about making money, you also have to think about making money long term. If you want to make money for the long haul, then definitely take care of your health first. So because of all these reasons, the things that I learned about money, this is why I did not get another job. I believe that there will always be another job if I want it, but my motivation to prioritize myself, to heal, and to also devote myself to this business that I'm starting, these motivation can never come back. I also want to explore life more. And I also remember reading this post online about how the older you get, the more things that you have, the less likely you're going to take risks because you have more things to lose. This is why it's so important to take risks when you're young and explore the world when you're still young enough and have less baggage to actually, go out there and take risks and explore. And this is exactly what I'm doing. I've been going on some adventures. I've been doing some pretty incredible things if my past self were to look at it. I went skydiving, I went to Greece, I went to different parts of Europe. I just went out of my comfort zone and explored a lot of different things. And these are all things that I wouldn't be able to do if I got another job. So I'm going to link my next video up here, but don't click on it yet. Make sure you subscribe if you want to see more videos on FIRE. And if you're ready to dive a lot deeper, DM me the word FIRE on Instagram at cherrytongue.co.